آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. Once the Prophet ﷺ was sitting with his companions, giving them a talk in the masjid. As he was giving his talk, 3 people came into the masjid and saw the gathering taking place. One of them looked for an opening and went as far up as he possibly could. The other one just sat right there at the back. And the third one, maybe he remembered something and he turned around and went right back outside the masjid. So, after the Prophet ﷺ finished his talk, he said, "Let me tell you about these 3 people. All 3 of them came at the same time, but all of them were treated differently based on how they treated that gathering. The first person was looking to see how they could get as close up to the speaker, as close up to the Prophet ﷺ as possible. They looked for some room, like sometimes when there's a gathering taking place, there's some space in between. He went and filled the space. He did his part by going up as far as was possible for him at that time. Nabi ﷺ says that this person, their example is like someone who took the protection of Allah. When we come to a gathering where knowledge is being passed on, the Prophet ﷺ compared that gathering to a place of shelter. We're taking shelter with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because Allah's special mercy comes on these gatherings, and through these gatherings Allah saves us from many things. That's why they're a gathering of shelter. Even just while we're sitting here, we are protected from so many elements. If we were not here, we were outside in some other environment, we would be exposed to many other things. And then the knowledge that is shared, it becomes a source of salvation for us in dunya and akhirah. It saves us in dunya, it saves us in akhirah. Second person had more of a shy approach. Just sat down at the back. Maybe didn't want to be noticed, or whatever the case was. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also dealt shyly with him. The Prophet ﷺ said, أَمَّا الْآخَرُ فَاسْتَحْيَا فَاسْتَحْيَا اللَّهُ مِنْهُ. He acted in a shy way, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also acted in a shy way. In other words, maybe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't completely deprive him, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not give him what He gave that first person, who showed his zeal to Allah. And as for the third one, he turned around and left and walked away from the gathering. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, فَأَعْرَضَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُ. He turned away from the gathering, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala turned away from him. So whenever there is an opportunity to learn, whenever there's a chance to learn, especially when something of deen is being taught in our class, we become one of these people. Either we show our zeal, even though you might already be seated in your desk, but it's about how much zeal you're showing to that gathering. So some people, some students will show their zeal and they will come under the protection of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because of the way they behave in that class. Others will sort of look around and see what everyone else is doing, and maybe they won't be causing any trouble, but they won't be participating the way they could. So those people will be dealt with accordingly. According to how much they put in, that's what they will get out of the class. And a third category of people will turn away from that gathering. How is that? Sometimes even while you're sitting in the gathering, you're sitting in the class, you're not there. Your mind has jumped to somewhere else. Your thoughts are somewhere else. And whatever is being presented in the class, it's lost on us, completely lost, just because we were not there, we did not bring our minds there. So this is the person who's turned away from the gathering. Even if we happen to be there physically, it's a good thing we're there physically. But if we're not putting our mind and our heart into it, then we will not be able to take. And those are the opportunities that shaitan uses against us. He uses that moment of lapse, that moment when you're not paying attention, to get you to do something else. Maybe to talk to your neighbor, maybe to play with your neighbor, maybe to do something else, maybe to do something that's going to distract the teacher's attention and make the teacher look at you and say, what are you doing? Pay attention, sit properly. Don't talk to your neighbor, you're sitting in a gathering. You'll force the teacher to do that. It will make them stop their lesson and be a distraction for the whole class. And the burden of that will be on you. If we become a source of other people being motivated, then we get the reward for everything that they learn. And if we become a source of other people just being distracted, then we have to carry the sin of all of that. So just dealing respectfully with the classroom environment can become a means of us becoming close to Allah. And imagine if you do that consistently for the whole year, and year after year, how close you will get to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just by attending class in a respectful way. That's it. It's not that difficult to get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala open up for us the doors of etiquette, the doors of adab, the doors of respect. In Arabic, there are some couplets that describe a person who doesn't have adab. The poet says, لَيْسَ الْيَتِيمُ الَّذِي قَدْ مَاتَ وَالِدُهُ بَلِ الْيَتِيمُ يَتِيمُ الْعِلْمِ وَالْأَدَبِ. The deprived person, the orphan, is not the one who has lost their parents. The orphan is the one who has been deprived of knowledge and adab, knowledge and etiquette. This is the person who has everything, but they don't know how to behave, they don't know how to conduct themselves, they don't know the dignified manner of speaking or the dignified manner of behaving. They don't know that. This person is deprived, they're like an orphan. لَيْسَ الْجَمَالُ بِأَثْوَابٍ تُزَيِّنُنَا إِنَّ الْجَمَالَ جَمَالُ الْعِلْمِ وَالْأَدَبِ. Beauty and charm and grace does not come from fancy clothes that make a person look good, but rather a person's grace, beauty, and charm comes from the knowledge and comes from the dignified behavior that they represent. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala adorn us and beautify us with beautiful akhlaq, beautiful mannerisms, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us a good model for other people. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa